Hi guys, Norm with you again, and we're back with this Audioline PT-342 CB radio. And for those of you who haven't seen it before, you haven't watched my other videos. But this is basically it. It's a hideaway radio, so the main part of the radio is like hidden beneath the seat or something, and then you just have this handset bit on the dash. Anyway, so in the other videos, we had to remake this front board connections, and we can see, that it's not entirely tidy as I would like it, but it is making good contact, so that's okay. It's not focusing very well. So that's okay for that, hopefully. And of course it still didn't work, and that is of course because the capacitors need changing. And I have marked all these as I've written them down. And here is the bag of replacement capacitors. I only actually had to order one capacitor because I had all the others from recapping this other 342. So that's good. So the first thing I'm going to do is change the 4 main capacitors. These 4 here, this one, that one, and that one. And if you've got one of these radios and you're not planning to do a restoration or recapping on it, you really should change those 4 capacitors, if nothing else. But of course I have got the whole set of capacitors, and I'm going to do the whole lot, because when I did this radio, all of the capacitors were bad, and some of them were really bad and shorted out. So what I'm going to do is first, just going to replace these 4, and then I'm going to plug it back in and try it and see what it's like, if it works or not. It probably will work a bit when those 4 are changed, but then we're going to go on and replace all of the others. So let's get started. And we've got here on these 2, that's a 470 UF or 470 microfarad, 16 volts. This is 470 at 10 volts, and we're going to be putting 16 volts in both of those, just because that's the easiest and best thing to do. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Okay. So yes, indeed, it was glued in, and that is very annoying. So let's get the other one out as well. 470. That one was glued in. Focus, please. The fucking autofocus on this camera is absolutely bloody terrible. And the phone itself, I quite like. I like its ruggedness and all stuff like that. But when it comes to its camera, it really isn't very good at all. Right, we've got the little tester here. Let's turn it on. Focus again. Focus. Focus. Is this camera app locked up? Why isn't it responding to my touch? Right. I'm guessing that this is going to be a bad capacitor. Should be 470. And it's coming up as 522. ESR 0.44, voltage loss 1.8. So not entirely bad, that one, but bad enough. And this one, the legs are only just long enough to fit in the thing. Let's test this one. be very surprised if this one's good. Well, indeed, and the voltage loss of 2%. But all in all, that's not entirely bad. Right, so that surprised me greatly. I expected those to be the absolute worst. So, pause, and I'll get the other ones. Focus, please. Bloody camera. Pause. Okay, so I've cleaned off the holes now. And got the new capacitors here. Is it going to focus? Which are a lot smaller than the originals. That's obviously, modern technology. God, I'm gonna get another phone because this camera, it just doesn't like to fucking focus. And what's the point of a camera which doesn't autofocus? Okay, so I've got those in now. The leg's just bent over a bit. So let's now solder them up nicely. Come on. Heat up. Beautiful. That's very good. So, perfecto. That is, what is that? 220 at 10 volts. And the other one is 220 at 10 volts. Right. And that one is there maybe. Is that it? Yep. Okay. So there's no visible signs of damage on those. So let's see. So this one is the one with the big mark on it. And so this one is the one that I reckon is going to be really bad. Focus. Focus. Autofocus, please. God. If I'm betting, I'm saying this capacitor is really bad. And yes, coming up is a 0.47 ohm resistor. So yeah, that is extremely bad. So that's basically at 0 ohms. That's a dead short, near enough. Half an ohm. Let me just reverse that just to double check. Okay. So I'm guessing after replacing this one, the channel display will probably come back on the mic. So that one's bad. Let's try this one. And this one probably be bad too, but let's find out. Again, yeah, resistor, 0 ohm resistor. Look at that, 0.34 ohms. So obviously that's supposed to be filtering out the supply, and it's actually shorting out the supply. So that is amazing. That is why this radio isn't working. So let's get those replaced and then we can try it. Okay, let's put this in. Probably edit this video and find that none of it's fucking usable because the bloody camera won't focus, you know. I mean, it's a simple thing, I suppose. It's a simple thing. Asking a camera to focus, is it not? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe focusing is a complex thing that cameras cannot do by themselves. Then the old S10 didn't seem to have so many problems, but then that had a Samsung camera sensor in it. But apparently, this Doogee V40 supposedly has a Samsung sensor in it as well. But who knows? Some Chinese knockoff of the Samsung sensor probably. And that's probably why it doesn't work. Right, so clip these off. Oops. 3 and 4. Right. What's the bets, people? Is it going to work now or not? I'm guessing it will most likely work, or at least partially work. So, yeah. Pause. Okay, so we're plugged into the power supply. Nothing's gone bang yet, of course. Well, it wouldn't anyway, but let's now turn it on. And we're hoping to see a channel display. And we have, whoops, the volume isn't working. So the volume is stuck on full. So one of the cables, no, it won't be because this is the good mic. So one of the connections to the volume isn't working. We've got TX and RX now. And what about tone high and low? No, tone high and low switch isn't working either. And we don't know about the power switch yet because we haven't tried that. But this is now back to a working state. Yep. Channel lock. Yep. TXRX. We don't know what the output's doing yet because I haven't got it plugged into the meter or the dummy load. But that has brought it back to life. Those really just get my hand out the way. Bad enough the camera not focusing, but my hand in the way makes it worse. So really the thing that was actually stopping it working was these two resistors. Yes, I said resistors because that's what they turned into. So these two were both shorted and that's what killed it. 2 capacitors that cost a couple of quid probably. If you buy them in bulk, a lot less than that. But that is now looking okay. So let me now quickly hook up the power meter and we'll just see if it is outputting anything. Okay, so this isn't really the best shot, but we are now on channel 20 on the thing. So let's now see what we can do. Now the frequency will not be reading correctly because I just turned the counter on and it takes, at least half an hour for this counter to stabilize. But let's see what we're getting. So we're doing well over 3 watts, 27,79129. So it's actually reading very well. But of course that reading is not correct because the counter hasn't had time to What I'll do is I'll leave the counter on now sort of overnight, and then I will test this tomorrow. But on the wattage, we were doing off the scale on the 3 watts, and we're doing pretty much exactly 4 watts on channel 20. Let's whiz down to channel 1. Channel 1, we're doing 4 watts and 27601. And channel 40, we're doing 79132 and 4 watts. So that's good, ideal. So that's looking very good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the camera out of the way, and I'm going to recap the whole thing with the rest of these brand new caps. I'm going to recap it. Obviously doing that on the film, or on the video rather, is just wasting my time and yours. So I'll get it recapped, and then we'll see if the volume comes back working. If the volume doesn't come back working and we're still stuck on full volume, we will have to diagnose what's wrong with that. Okay, so here's all the capacitors that were taken out. Most of them were bad. Some of them were very, very bad. Like there was this one, which I've marked with an X. It just detects as a bad component or no component installed in the tester, which means that's completely open circuit or it's just really bad. These ones were pretty much shorted, and these are turned into resistors. That one, and oh, we're missing a few here probably. Yep, so these were really, really bad. So I replaced all of those. And on the actual radio, I did find that one of the traces going to this third pin in was broken. The actual contact on the front board had sort of broken and came off, and so I had now run a link wire all the way up, following the trace of where it was up to there, and so that is now looking good, absolutely perfect. So the power output and the frequency is spot on. So we've just got the problem of why it won't turn down now. So what I have to do is open the mic up and trace where the wires go for the volume and see what's on. So what I'll do is I will not open the good mic, I'll open up the other mic so we can have a look inside it and see what's going on. But first, let me just try that other mic in case something will be different on that one. So let's now move back over here, pause. Okay, then don't bother pausing, just do it anyway. Zoom out. Right, let's plug in the mic that actually goes with this radio. And let's see what we get with this one. Again, yep, the volume won't turn down. The RX light isn't working. Okay, so I think the problem with it continually keying up is going to be to do with this transistor here on the mic. And so we'll have to check that directly. But the problem with it not turning down is that pin 14 on the mic socket takes the ground up to the volume control, and that wasn't making contact to the front board. So I've had to add a little jump wire inside there, which you can't see. So now, if I plug in the good mic, make sure it's turned off, the volume should be working now. and so thus the radio should be 100% working. So let's try it. Put the squelch down to 0, turn on. Now the volume is working. And we have got transmit and receive. Let's see, 2760136, perfect. And 2799138, perfect. Still got a bit of noise. Oh no, it's actually very quiet with the squelch off. So that now is the radio 100% working. So that is very, very good. Okay guys, so I could have swore blind I had some 2SC945 transistors in my box, but I didn't, so I had to order a load. And I also had to order some of these, which are bicolor LEDs with a common negative or common cathode. And so I've now put one of these in. The original LED was actually not put in correctly, because they put in a single LED, but they connected it to the TX line and the RX line. The ground wasn't even connected, so I don't know how that was working. Okay, so we're still on the wobbly camera stand, and you can see I had it in a makeshift switch here temporarily, and now the radio does receive and transmit as it should. And what it was, the transistor was okay, the original one, because I put the new transistor in and it done exactly the same thing. Now, if we look at the schematic here, we can see that it grounds the base of the transistor through the speaker. Now, why they decided to do that, I do not know, but if I just get that to one side, the fans are blowing it about a bit, and this wobbly thing, I'm going to sort this out. So now if I turn it on again, and as you can see, we are transmitting and receiving. That's very good. If I cut one of the speaker wires, cut, it goes into transmit mode. How about that? So you would never think that a blown speaker would make the radio transmit. And what were they thinking when they done that? I do not understand why they grounded the transistor through, because when you look at this, you see you press it in to transmit, and there's nothing connected to the transmit line. And so by disconnecting the speaker is the way they make it transmit. And normally you would have a transmit pin over here going to the transistor, and then when this one's connected to ground, it would transmit. When that one's connected to ground, it would connect the speaker. But the way they've done this seems very weird to me. But I guess it works. Yeah, ground the transistor through the speaker to stop the radio transmitting. Interesting, huh? Okay guys, well it's still 32 degrees in here. And I've been in here way more longer than I should have been. 2 fans are still running, but that's not helping me keep cool. So I'm going into the other room now and cool down and basically cry about why it took me so long to figure this out. Grounding the transistor through the speaker to stop it transmitting. I don't understand it. Catch you later. And that this wire is actually for the high and low power switch, and that goes through the switch and connects to resistor 515 up here, and that gives you high and low power. The tone switch is on this wire, this green wire, which goes to ground to activate the tone. And so both switch wires are in the mic, so I can replace the switches. But you see, the most annoying thing is that the previous person who sorted this out has tried to rub off the switch markings. Why would they do that? You know, it's almost to try and say those switches never existed. I mean, there's no way I can recover that printing or reprint it or anything. So that's forever like that now. Even if I refit the switches, you know, why would you rub off that? You know, I mean, you look at the other ones, the volume and the squelch, they are perfect. So these would not have worn out as bad as that just by use. I mean, because you don't use the high and low tone switch very often, or the power. You do use the volume a lot and the squelch, and they've not worn out. So these were deliberately rubbed off. And that pisses me off, to be honest, because that is something that cannot be repaired. You cannot, I mean, maybe there is a way to sort of screen or like transfer some letters onto it or something. Is this camera wobbling again? This mount is bloody rubbish. But, I mean, yep, and the channel lock and the other one's all perfect. But they've just rubbed off those. So what I'm going to do is I will probably look to refit those switches, but I haven't currently got any that will do the job. So the plan is now to rebuild the mic. I have had to rewire the volume control because the wires broke off, and I've also had to rewire the other control. Where is it? Oh, here. This channel lock switch. I've had to rewire that, and I've put in fresh wires all around rather than just resoldering the original wires, because they were, as we can see here, this is one of the original wires, and they're not really flexible anymore. And so if I reused this, it would probably just break off again. So to make it neater and better, I've used some more of the old bodged wires, which is like IDE cable from a computer, and that's now been rewired and looking nice. Alright, so let me now rebuild this into the case, and we'll see how good it is. Okay, so I finally managed to get this back together, and yes, this is the one, because you can tell because the switches are missing and it's been wiped off. But this was a bloody nightmare, an absolute nightmare, because like a wire would break off, and I fixed that, put in a new wire, and then another wire broke off, so you fix that, and then another wire broke off. I'm like, no, this cannot be happening, this bloody thing, you know. And then when it's all together and you're trying to squeeze all those wires and get it all lined up, it is a bloody nightmare. So anyway, we're camera angle, but here is the repairs that was done to the radio. And you can see These specifically are not looking very tidy. Looks like an absolute mess, and I would have loved to have done that a lot neater, but you know, shaky hands is not easy. But I'm happy with these. These are looking quite nice, and so that's all good. So zoom out. So there we are. That's the completely messed up Audioline 342 now fully working again. Thank goodness for that. And if I ever buy another one of these, somebody come here and shoot me.